Hello everyone. How have you been lately? In previous episodes, I talked about some ghost and fox stories from strange tales from a Chinese studio. Today, I'll introduce an excerpt from Dream of the Red Chamber. Dream of the Red Chamber, also known as The Story of the Stone, is a masterpiece by Chinese novelist Cao Xueqin. The excerpt for today comes from Chapter 3, Lin Ruhai recommends a tutor. Grandmother Jiao welcomes a granddaughter. The story goes like this. Ever since Lin Daiyu disembarked from her boat that day, people from the Rongguo Mansion had been sent to wait for her with a sedan chair and carts for her luggage. Daiyu had often heard her mother mention that her maternal grandmother's family was unlike any other. From what she had seen recently of even the lower-ranking maids and servants, their living standards were already far superior to ordinary households. Now, arriving at the mansion, she had to be extra cautious, careful with every step, mindful of every word, for fear of being laughed at. Once she got into the sedan chair and entered the city, she peered out through the silk windows, catching glimpses of the bustling streets and flourishing crowds, which were incomparable to anywhere else. After traveling for half a day, she suddenly saw two large stone lions crouching in front of the north gate, a large gate with beast head decorations on 3 doorways. In front of the gate, there were a dozen or so richly dressed men seated, with no one entering through the main gate, only people going in and out through the side gates. Above the main gate hung a plaque with the words, "Imperially commissioned, Rongguo Mansion," written in large characters. Daiyu thought to herself,
"This must be my grandfather's elder brother's house."
Not far to the west, in a similar fashion, stood another 3-door gate. This one belonged to Rongguo Mansion. However, instead of entering through the main gate, they went through the west side gate. The sedan chair was carried on for about an arrow's flight before it came to a stop as they rounded a corner. The older maids also dismounted from their carts, and 4 new young servants, about 17 or 18 years old, clean and neat in appearance, came to carry the sedan chair, while the older maids walked alongside on foot. When they arrived at a hanging flower gate, the sedan chair was set down, and the young servants stepped aside respectfully. The older maids lifted the curtain of the chair and helped Daiyu down. Daiyu took the hand of one of the maids as she entered through the hanging flower gate. On either side of the entrance were walkways under covered corridors, and directly ahead was a central hall. In the hall stood a large rosewood screen with marble inlay. Passing the screen, there was a small, 3-roomed hall, and beyond it lay the main courtyard. Facing her were 5 main rooms, all with carved beams and painted rafters. To the sides were corridors leading to smaller rooms. Parrots, minor birds, and other colorful birds were hanging in cages. On the steps sat several young girls dressed in red and green. Upon seeing them approach, they smiled and came forward, laughing as they said,
"The old lady was just mentioning you. What a coincidence that you've arrived now."
Several of the girls rushed to lift the curtain. Meanwhile, Daiyu heard someone say,
"Young Lady Lin has arrived."
As Daiyu entered the room, she saw 2 people supporting an old lady with silver hair coming toward her. Daiyu immediately recognized her as her grandmother, and just as she was about to bow, Grandmother Jiao embraced her and held her close, crying,
"My heart."
The old lady cried bitterly, and all the attendants standing by couldn't help but shed tears as well. Daiyu, too, cried uncontrollably. Only after much comforting did Daiyu finally pay her respects to her grandmother. Grandmother Jiao then introduced her to everyone, saying,
"This is your eldest aunt. This is your second aunt. And this is your sister-in-law, the widow of your late cousin Zhu."
Daiyu greeted them all one by one. Grandmother Jiao then called out,
"Bring the girls in. Since we have an important guest today, they can skip school for the day."
The servants responded and left the room. After a while, 3 wet nurses and 5 or 6 maids escorted 3 young ladies into the room. The first girl was of moderate build, with slightly plump skin, her cheeks like fresh lychees and her nose like polished jade. She was gentle and quiet, giving off a warm and approachable air. The second girl had a slender frame, with a sharp waist and long, graceful limbs. Her face was oval, like a duck egg, with bright, piercing eyes and elegant eyebrows. She carried an air of brilliance and vitality that could captivate anyone who looked her way. The third girl was still quite young, short in stature, and had a childlike appearance. Though their hairpins, bracelets, and dresses were all identical, The contrast in their demeanor was clear. Daiyu quickly stood to greet them, and after they exchanged pleasantries, they all sat down. The maid served tea, and they began talking about how Daiyu's mother had fallen ill, sought medical help, and eventually passed away. Hearing this, Grandmother Jiao became emotional once more.
Of all my girls, your mother was the one I loved the most. Now that she has passed before me, without us having a chance to say goodbye, how can I not feel heartbroken?
She said, holding Daiyu's hand and crying again. Everyone around hurried to console her, and after much effort, the old lady was somewhat pacified. Though Daiyu was young, her manners and speech were refined. Though she seemed frail and delicate, her appearance carried an elegant charm, making it clear to everyone that she was suffering from a chronic illness. They asked her,
What medicine are you taking regularly? Why hasn't it cured you yet?
Daiyu replied,
I'd been like this since I was a child. Ever since I learned to eat, I'd been taking medicine. I've consulted countless famous doctors, but nothing has worked. I remember when I was only 3, a monk came by. He wanted to take me away to become a nun, but my parents refused. He said, if you cannot bear to part with her, then I'm afraid her illness will never be cured. The only way for her to stay well is to never hear the sound of crying again, and aside from her parents, she must not see any of her relatives. Only then can she live peacefully. That monk was speaking nonsense, so no one paid him any attention. And now, I still take ginseng and nourishment pills.
Grandmother Jiao replied,
That's convenient. I've been preparing some medicinal pills here, too. I'll have them make a little extra for you.
Before Grandmother Jiao had finished speaking, Daiyu suddenly heard a voice from the back courtyard, accompanied by laughter.
I'm late. I missed greeting our guest from afar.
Daiyu wondered.
Everyone here is so reserved and quiet, but who is this person, acting so carefree and audacious?
While she was thinking about this, she saw a group of wives and maids surrounding a beautiful woman as she entered from the back room. This woman's attire was different from the other young ladies, brilliantly colorful, and she looked like a goddess. On her head, she wore a gold-threaded hairpin adorned with precious jewels, and her hair was decorated with 5 phoenix-shaped ornaments, each one hanging with pearls. Around her neck, she wore a golden necklace engraved with dragons. Her dress was a bright red silk gown embroidered with butterflies and flowers, and over it, she wore a stone-blue jacket trimmed with silver fox fur. Her skirt was a jade-green silk one with scattered floral patterns. She had phoenix-shaped eyes and delicate brows that tapered at the ends. She had a slender figure, a graceful posture, and a subtle yet commanding presence. Her rosy face exuded charm, and even before she smiled, her laughter filled the air. Daiyu quickly stood up to greet her. Grandmother Jiao smiled and said,
You don't know her. She's a famous rascal around here. In Nanjing, they call her Hot Pepper. You can just call her Hot Pepper Phone.
Daiyu was unsure how to address her, but the other sisters quickly told her.
This is your sister-in-law, the second young lady Lian.
Although Daiyu had never met her before, she remembered her mother mentioning that her eldest uncle, Jioshi's son, Jiao Lian, had married their second aunt's niece, Wang. Since childhood, she had been raised like a boy, and her given name was Wang Shifeng. Daiyu smiled and greeted her by calling her
Sister-in-law.
Shifeng took Daiyu's hand and carefully sized her up from head to toe. Then, she led her back to Grandmother Jiao's side and, with a smile, said,
So, this is what a truly beautiful girl looks like. I've finally seen it today. And what's more, she has such an air about her, not like a granddaughter from her grandmother's side, but more like her own granddaughter by blood. No wonder grandmother can't stop thinking about her day and night. But it's a pity my dear sister has had such a hard life, losing her mother so young.
Saying this, she pulled out a handkerchief and dabbed at her eyes. Grandmother Jiao laughed and said,
I've just been feeling better, and now you're trying to stir up my emotions again. Your sister has just arrived after a long journey and is still feeling weak. I just managed to calm her down, so don't bring it up again.
Hearing this, Shifeng quickly changed her tone, smiling.
You're right. The moment I saw my sister, my heart was so full of joy and sorrow that I forgot all about you, grandmother. I deserve to be punished.
She then grabbed Daiyu's hand and asked,
How old are you, sister? Have you gone to school? What medicine are you taking? Don't worry about missing home while you're here. If you need anything to eat or play with, just let me know. And if the maids or old servants aren't treating you well, tell me, too.
Daiyu answered her questions one by one. Meanwhile, Shifeng asked the servants,
Has young Lady Lin's luggage been brought in? How many people did she bring with her? Make sure to clean up 2 rooms quickly so they can rest.
As she spoke, refreshments were brought in, and Shifeng personally served them. Then, their second aunt asked her.
Have the monthly allowances been handed out?
Shifeng replied.
They've all been distributed. I just went to the back attic to find the brocade we talked about yesterday, but after searching for a long time, I couldn't find it. I think you might have remembered it wrong.
Lady Wang said.
It doesn't matter whether we have it or not. You should grab a few rolls and make some clothes for your sister.
Shifeng smiled and said.
I thought of that already. I knew our sister would be arriving in the next few days, so I've prepared everything. I'll bring them to you for approval later.
Lady Wang smiled and nodded without saying more. Okay, in this chapter, through Lin Daiyu's eyes, Cao Xueqin introduces several of the main characters in Dream of the Red Chamber. First, we meet the protagonist Lin Daiyu's maternal grandmother, Grandmother Jiao, also referred to by everyone as the Old Lady. She is the eldest and most authoritative person in the Rongguo Mansion. Secondly, Lin Daiyu's cousin-in-law is Wang Shifeng. She is the wife of Jiao Lian, Grandmother Jiao's grandson, and at the same time, she is the niece of Lady Wang, Grandmother Jiao's daughter-in-law who is married to Jiao Zheng, one of Grandmother Jiao's sons. Lin Daiyu's eldest aunt is Lady Xing, and her second aunt is Lady Wang. Both are daughters-in-law of the Old Lady. Lady Wang's son is the male lead, Jiao Baoyu. Sister-in-law Zhu, whose real name is Li Wan, is the widow of Lin Daiyu's deceased cousin, Jiao Zhu. Jiao Zhu, the elder brother of Jiao Baoyu, passed away before the story begins, and no details are given about his death. The author also introduces 3 other young ladies, although their names are not mentioned here. They are Ying Chun, Tan Chun, and Shi Chuan. With the introduction of these key characters, a beautiful and moving love story is about to unfold. Well, that's all for today's content. See you next time.